Welcome to video 3 in my series, Love Your Body, It Believes Every Word You Say. We've been going over how we have physical responses to every emotion, and I'd like to give you some more examples of that today. There are a lot of the things that we say on an everyday basis that is really expressing that, but we're not conscious really of what we're saying sometimes. Where if we feel nervous, we might say, oof, I've just got butterflies in my stomach. Or something that might cause us to say, I just have this gut feeling. Most of us know the feeling of heartbreak. It was such a heartbreak, and it's really an ache that we're feeling in the area of our hearts. I knew a woman one time who was telling me how she was really tired and she was very stressed, and she was just saying, I so need a break. And then a few days later, she told me that she had actually fallen and broken her ankle. Now, that's kind of a pretty physical metaphor for needing a break, and she got her break. There's a heck of a way to do it. But I think her body was listening to what she said and what she needed. I'm also convinced that a lot of times when we get things like colds, it's not going to kill us, but it's our body way of saying, look, you're run down, I need some rest, and if you're not going to do it, I'm going to make you. So then give it a few days rest and some chicken soup, and it'll start to bounce back for you. There's a good example, too, of how we can actually visualize how the emotions are changing us physiologically. And one great example of that is if I were to say something really embarrassing to somebody, then what would happen? Most people would say, well, they turn red, right? And we would get flushed. And so that dilation of the blood vessels is a response to what? It's actually the physical response to the emotion or feeling of embarrassment. That's happening all the time. It's just not always as visible or obvious to us when it is. But every time we think, feel, whatever, it's always happening somewhere. This week we're going to become a bit more conscious of when that is happening or what it is we're feeling and where it is in our bodies. So again, the first week we talked about more what are we saying to ourselves? What's our self-talk? And this week we want to focus more on in what is our body saying to us and listening to that. Probably 20 years ago, there was a book that came out by Bernie Siegel, and that was called Love, Medicine, and Miracles. And Dr. Siegel was doing a lot of work with cancer patients in groups. And I remember reading that book, and there was just one classic example of in this circle of people in a support group. There was one woman that at one point stopped and had said, I decided I was going to make my marriage work if it killed me. And you could have heard a pin drop, because when she really stopped and listened to what she was saying, she knew how important it was for her to look at that and address that issue. There's also ways that we can use this kind of backwards, where if we're feeling an emotion that we're having trouble changing, okay, I want to be happier, I want to be more upbeat, I'm just having trouble doing it. And say we feel really sad and depressed, and we're having trouble changing, again, on the emotional level. You can actually go in through the physical, because again, since they're both related and one affects the other. And an example of that is when I speak to groups and do this workshop with a larger group. I'll ask everybody to most people are sitting and said, okay, everybody sit how you would if you were feeling really sad and depressed. And what almost everybody does, everybody slides down on their chairs, the little arms come over, there's no smile, their whole face drops. We kind of sit with that for a minute, for sad and depressed. So now, don't work on changing any emotion or anything, but how would you look if you felt joyful and confident? So, okay, we're joyful, happy, confident, everybody sits up, and smiles come to their faces and the posture's better. And now we take that physiology, we take that position, that physical position, and without moving a muscle, not allowed to change anything about your body. You ready? You can try it with me if you want here. Ready? Feel depressed. Go ahead. Feel depressed. it's really hard to do, because if you feel depressed, it's kind of like, in order to get depressed, you kind of have to go like that, and then you can really feel it coming on. But if you're like this and your body's in a state that expresses happy and confident, that feels depressed is tougher. So again, it's kind of fake it till you make it. If you're feeling depressed and not so great, you can say, well, how would I be? What would I look like? How would my body feel if I was happy and confident? Even if I'm really not feeling it right now, you can go ahead and do that, and it will literally bring you more towards that state. And this is really fun to play with, and it can be very helpful when you remember that you have this tool. Years ago, I read that abracadabra, the word abracadabra that's used by magicians, actually means as I speak, I create. And I think that's a wonderful thing. So sometimes just think the words abracadabra. What can I change physiologically in my thinking, in my thoughts, my feelings? Which tool am I going to use to see how I can recreate my inner and my outer environment? One last example I'd like to give you is I was at a mind-body conference in Boston, and this is many years ago. There was hundreds of people there, and it was run by Deepak Chopra and David Simon, who they're partners out in a clinic in California. I'm sure you've probably heard of them. And they had a woman named Candace Pert, who was a scientific researcher. And Candace came out. She's got this great book called Molecules of Emotion, and she's one of the people who discovered. Well, first she was credited with discovering the opiate receptors, which are the receptors on the cells that actually pick up those morphine-like substances in our bodies that have an effect on our mood and how we're feeling. So she put a picture up on the big screen. Back then, I don't know if it was like overlays, those old-fashioned, I don't remember. But anyway, so she first took a picture of a person, and they had been finding that in research, cells that were thought to only be thinking cells in our brains actually were found in clumps in other parts of the body. And as she was showing where these clumps of brain cells were, she then took another picture and overlaid it, and they correlated exactly with the 7 energy chakras. So there we are once again, bringing the energetic and the metaphysical into the scientific, knowing that all of this is connected. And I'm sure as time goes on, we're going to understand more and more and more. That to me was just amazing, fascinating, and why, again, we're feeling these feelings in different parts of our body. We have these thinking cells in our toes, just not as many as in some of these other areas. So be aware of your body this week. Listen to what it's saying to you. Not only what you're saying to it, but what is it saying to you as you go through your day? This is part of what intuition is. Have fun with this. See what you learn, see what you find out, and I look forward to seeing you on video 4.